Given the back and forth that there's been between Trent Alexander-Arnold and Erling Haaland, to whom does this mean more today?
It means equally as much to both teams. I think they both know how vital the game is. We're not far away from the end of the season now. I still don't think this is defining. I still think there's a long way to go, but I think it could go a long way to see who ends up lifting the Premier League trophy.
When you see back and forth between players, what do you make of it? Because we used to see it between the managers and playing the mind games.
To be honest, I think it's been lost a little bit because Trent's comments were actually in the 442 magazine, and I read that magazine, I love it. But it's a monthly magazine, so he would have done that interview about 6 weeks ago. It wouldn't have been ahead of this game. He's injured, so he wouldn't have done too much media anyway. So I think the timing, and then Man City have felt they needed to respond. But I don't really think there was too much in what Trent said, to be honest. But listen, builds it up, doesn't it? Adds a bit of spice.
Aside from the title race, and we'll get to that in just a moment, obviously the big issue surrounding today is the last meeting between Jurgen Klopp and Pep Guardiola in terms of their Premier League rivalry. How sad are you, I should say, that it's going?
Yeah, I am, because we've had these sort of managerial rivalries in the past. I mean, there was definitely a lot more sort of angst, I would say, between Arsene Wenger and Sir Alex Ferguson. But, I go back to when I was a child, Kenny Dalglish and Alex Ferguson, Rafa Benitez and Jose Mourinho. But what I would say is I think when these two have come up against each other, I think it's maybe the highest quality that we've seen in the Premier League. Because I think for a stage, and it won't be far away right now, they've probably been the two best teams in Europe for a 3 or 4 year period when they were coming up against each other. I don't think that's ever been the case when we've had two teams in the English game, certainly the Premier League, coming up against each other. So I think not just the managers, the actual quality of what we're seeing on the pitch. And for now, this game today, the whole world will be watching this, and it's probably the highest quality of game you're going to see in Europe.
And for such a rivalry, we've not necessarily seen that respect, because Jurgen Klopp again called Pep Guardiola the best manager in the world because of the influence that he's had on the game, and Pep has often spoken about how Jurgen has pushed him all the way as well, pushed him to be a better manager.
Yeah, and they have, and I think there's almost this feeling that they're complete opposites in how they play football, but I think there's a lot of similarities as well. I mean, Jurgen Klopp's teams play great football and Pep Guardiola's teams press brilliantly as well. So, they're not too far away from each other, but obviously they come from a different angle, from their upbringings. And, Pep Guardiola being coached by Johan Cruyff, that's where it starts from, being at Barcelona, and the influences in Germany, more of a counter-attacking league for Jurgen Klopp. So it makes it great games, especially here. I think with the atmosphere and the pitch being a bit tighter, I think the games are probably more exciting than they are at the Etihad, where it's maybe a bigger pitch and there's more control for Manchester City. I do feel like we get a more end-to-end game here with more sort of, whether it's goals or goal chances or, scrambles in the box. It does feel a more exciting game at Anfield.
In terms of the squads, who's in better shape? Because obviously both sides have had injuries at times. Salah, Núñez, Szoboszlai lately for Liverpool. Haaland, De Bruyne, Foden have had their injury problems at times this season as well.
I think right now Manchester City are in better shape. I think there's a big debate whether Salah starts today in terms of him just coming back. He only came off the bench in midweek in Europe, so it'll be interesting to see what Jurgen Klopp does there. Liverpool are getting players back, but they're not up to speed fully. They haven't got sort of 3 or 4 games behind them, whereas the ones you've mentioned have been injured in the start of the season. They look like they're back bang on form. So in terms of injury-wise and selection, I think Manchester City are in a better place.
From a Liverpool point of view, then that makes the Anfield factor that more important today, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, if this was at a neutral venue or at Manchester City, I'd make Man City massive favourites. But I just think the Anfield factor, the fact that City don't normally do well, and that's not just Pep Guardiola. I think over the last sort of 40, 50 years, I think Man City won 3 times in that time period, which shows you how strong and how tough they found it coming to Anfield. So that, alongside sort of Liverpool obviously being in, really good side, I think probably makes it a 50-50.
Just finally then, Jamie, I know you said that it's not a deciding factor today in the title race, but how significant could today be in terms of who ends up lifting that Premier League title?
Oh, it could be massive. These two teams have shown in the past they can win every other game. You wouldn't be surprised if both teams won all the games between now and the end of the season after today, so it could have a huge impact on it. My feeling is just that there's so long to go. I still feel like there's almost a quarter of the season to go really in after today. So, yeah, I mean, who knows towards the end of the season? We know these teams have, competed for titles and it's been won by a point, so you would automatically look back at this game and say, well, okay, the winner maybe just pipped it in terms of the title. But no, I still think there's a long way to go.